together.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Brian's Logic, Righteous Force, Eli, 10th Man Rising, Neil, Matthew, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Flat Earth.
Good morning. Is there any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth.
Let's get ready to rumble.
No.
Not since the Black Swan. The geometry's broken.
Yeah, there's a few people out there that still think that they can draw a tangent line to the horizon, though. Whenever they need to sort of calculate for an angle or a dip correction, they're like, yeah, of course we've got a straight line tangent to a physical geometric sphere edge. So we can work our way around this problem of needing flat planes and angles. It's like, hold on.
You can't do the dip correction with a tangent plane.
No, you can't.
You have to use the water, the surface of the water.
Yeah, which horizon are you pointing the sextant at? Are you pointing at the geometric horizon nobody can see and only exists in the maths? Or are you pointing the horizon at the horizon? Pointing the horizon at the horizon? Pointing the sextant at the horizon?
Well, the water at the horizon has to be in a horizontal line with the water underneath your boat. If you're using a tangent plane, then that won't be the case. You can't point at the horizon if you're using a tangent plane. Because it's not... The horizon is where the physical water or physical earth is. You can't point at that. If you're using, how can you have a sextant pointing at the horizon? If you're using a tangent plane, you can't. If you're using a tangent plane to do your dip correction off of, that means that you would have to have your horizon mirror pointed up above the horizon somewhere. It's completely ludicrous.
Indeed, it defeats the purpose of dip.
Can you go to Master D, Nathan? Can you go Master D, and so I can read the slide?
Hello, guys, by the way.
Hey, Arwin. Yeah, go ahead, 10th, if you want to read it out.
Yeah, it says the next error to correct for is high divide. The tables all assume a high divide of exactly 0 feet. That is because then the horizon is at 90-degree angle to the zenith. Enough said?
There's no more needed.
Where's that taken from?
This is oceannavigator.com.
Any evidence?
Let me show you.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, no evidence whatsoever. We'd all know it.
We wouldn't expect to see any Coriolis deviation.
If the Earth was turning under anything, then it would be turning under everything, and flights heading west would be shortened, and we'd notice.
Spot on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
You
It's
need an
over
R
there.
value. You need a 1AU, which is based on R value, which the Black Swan debunked, which you can't do the tangent plane if it's refracted. So that's why the Earth keeps changing in size. And Brian's done a good job on his channel. Go and subscribe to Brian's Logic, showing you how the Earth inflates and deflates whenever they want.
Well, somebody in my chat today asked Chat GPT or some other AI thingy, but and they said that because it's like not exactly spherical, you just happen to be watching a slightly more flat spot if there's a black swan. So it's just like pretty much everywhere, of course, but you just can't see the part where it's curved now, according to the mechanism.
So how far is this? How far is this flat spot? Is it 5 feet longer than what the globe claims to be when the curve starts, or could it be
That's
10
right.
miles, which would make the radius of the Earth 263,000 miles instead of 3,959?
May I answer
No,
that
it's
question?
pretty much everywhere where it evades the standard where it should be according to the sphere calculation and all that. Then it's
Oh,
just
so-
not. Then it's just a flat part of the not really sphere.
No, okay. The answer is the Earth is flat.
It's not the answer the chat GPT is going to give you, though.
Well, what are they
Can
going to
I
do?
just add something?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, just something I want to say earlier. I'm not claiming that they're claiming that their globe is expanding in size, right? I'm pointing out, right, because I'm not making any claims. It's not Brian. Brian is not making any claims. He's detailing with visual demonstration, moving demonstration, what their claim actually is. Brian's Logic, is not making any claims about this. Their claim is that due to what they call refraction, which is only mathematics, their globe is always only an arc length of a circle. And the rate of curve in that arc length changes as they need it to mathematically. So what they do is they add the part that's not an arc length, that's their effective part. So they add in a part that doesn't exist, and then another part that doesn't exist, and another part that doesn't exist. For all the times they need to do it, which is why with the BLMSB 69, 31 mile away observation from 1 foot observer height, they have to claim 3,845 over 6R, right? Which makes their globe almost a horizontal line. They will never be a horizontal line because they are always referencing a circle. But it means that their globe becomes a very, 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 very small arc length of a huge circle. That's what they're claiming. So I'm not strawmanning them by doing that. That is what over 6R is. I'm not claiming that anything. It's their claim. And they don't like it because it makes them look ridiculous.
As it was asked in response, is there any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
They can only presuppose it.
You're going to need an angle elevation measurement to Polaris to derive a radius.
Oh, I just heard boats going over the horizon.
Right, and once you've got it, you can use a differential calculator to infer that there's a horizon beyond the one we see and is used within the differential calculation that exists below surface level. A second horizon, a geometric horizon. We don't. There is no geometric horizon. Just in case anybody doesn't know what I mean by geometric horizon, that's Earth curve.
No, it's the horizon we can't see.
It's the horizon we can't see. It's the one that only exists in the maths. It's the tangent point they can never use. Any scientific...
Damn, that's what they still say today in 2023. It's still boats go over the horizon. It's like they're just closing their ears to everything that's coming from this platform.
Well, no, there's just a whole raft of Western world normies that are going to eventually fall down that flat Earth hill into denial when they come here and start repeating stuff. So there's an impression that when you hear the same old 2017, 2018, 2019 arguments regurgitated, it's because the same people have just cognitively ignored it. Now, there are some cases of that, don't get me wrong. But for the most part, now it's just somebody coming in who does a cursory search, and because we're right at the bottom of the lists, and obviously the Western world paradigm of a sphere Earth in a vacuum is at the top of the lists, they come and parrot off the arguments that they might be finding in rebuttal when they do a Google search for that. So then they just offer it up to us thinking they're smarty pants. Oh, I'll go and take the piss out of a flat earther for a bit. So scientific evidence of gravity. Any kind of that?
Again, it's one of those things that they need for their reified model that we don't experience in nature. Have we ever observed this thing called gravity, in Newtonian being mass attracting mass, Einsteinian being in a fourth dimension that's not real, a concept time? They differ, let alone asking us for evidence.
Gravity. You forgot quantum gravity.
No, that's
And
where they have
once
to
we
go.
figure that out, that it's nonsense. Then they'll figure out something else and then call it gravity too, and then it'll be the new gravity.
Right,
So
but
there will always be more gravities. And
right. So this is my address of my home. No, this isn't the address of my home for hundreds of years. This is the address of my home for 108 years, Einstein. No, this isn't the address of my home. Now it's a new address called quantum gravity. It can't change if we're seeing it in nature always occurring.
it can, though. They're doing it.
No, they're doing it in the math and in your mind, but not in reality.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
You're looking through a telescope to the sky, seeing a phenomena is the only thing they got.
Yeah, what are you saying? They're halfway there already? Yeah. They're halfway there.
That's all they got is...
Well,
yeah.
They've got half a hypothesis in almost everything they look at.
Right, but you said scientific. So where does it stop?
Well, I'm saying they've got plenty of dependent variables, right? Naturally occurring
Correct.
phenomena. They've got plenty of that. Well, that's half a hypothesis right there. They just need the presumed cause of the effect, and then they've got a full hypothesis. That's all we're asking for.
Right. And so I'm saying all they got is a bunch of dependent variables, but they can't get to the other part because they can't manipulate the independent variable.
Then it's not science.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, feel free. Who is that?
Vico.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm new here.
Go ahead.
Well, I can't explain why it's happening, but if I'm dropping someone, well, it's obviously attracted to the Earth for whatever reason. Well, that's gravity. I can't explain why, but we can all agree to call that gravity, right?
Sorry, I missed that. Call what gravity?
Affirming the
The fact
consequence
that
fallacy, that's what
everything
it's called,
is attracted
gravity.
to the Earth. When I drop a bottle, it's gonna fall to the floor.
Helium balloons?
What about if you drop a helium balloon?
Well, it's less dense than hair, so it's floating up.
Right, so it's not going down then.
So
Right.
That's the end of that argument.
So I can't explain why it's happening.
Why? What's
Fine,
happening?
it's denser than hair. I can get it, but we can all agree to call that gravity, right?
No. Not always happening. You're explaining a downward bias in the medium of air. But that downward bias doesn't exist if things go up also. There's nothing to explain. Because you're trying to explain something that always occurs. Well, does everything always go down?
That's a question for you.
Oh, okay. Well, the helium balloon, as you said, it's gonna reach a point where it's gonna stop going up.
That's not
It's
my
gonna
question. My
it's
question
gonna
is,
come down on
yeah,
the
that's
layer
not my
of
question.
hair.
That's not my question. That's not my question. Do you want it again? Did you hear my question?
Yes, you ask why something can go up if everything is going down.
That's not what I asked. That's how you paraphrased it, because that's how you've heard it. Yeah?
Okay, sorry.
Does everything go down?
Yeah, if everything goes down.
No, not yeah, if everything goes down. Third time's the charm. Listen carefully. Does everything go down? Question mark.
Well, yes.
Eleanor, how old are you? Say nice and loud.
6.
Does everything go down, Eleanor? No, not everything. My 6-year-old knows not everything goes down. She can see the clouds out the window.
Yeah, sure, there is cloud.
So the answer is, sorry, you've just answered, shut up. You've just answered yes. Did you not?
Hey, wait, I'm respectful. Please be respectful to me.
You said yes, didn't you?
Yes, well,
that was wrong. Now you can stop talking again. Nothing to do with respect. You're wrong. Now you just need to concede how wrong you were. And when you say, no, that's wrong, I'll say, so we won't be calling it anything then, because it doesn't happen. You want to call this gravity. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm pointing out it doesn't happen to give it a name.
This man answered his own question a few minutes ago. When he was asked, why did the helium balloon go up? He said density.
Because it's less
and that's
dense.
why things, and why do things go down? Because they're more dense than the median. Helium balloons are less dense than the air. So a piece of wood is more dense than the air. So if wood goes down, helium balloon goes up in air.
Yes, in here.
But in water, the wood won't go down.
The thing is,
in water, the wood will float until the water expels all the air from within the wood. Then the wood will go down. But other than that, the wood will float. So it's a density. It's not gravity.
Sorry to interrupt, Brian. Yeah, the question the guy's asking though is it reasonable to give this thing that doesn't happen a name? And he hasn't given me an answer. He was asking for somebody to affirm that with him. But now I've gone through the process of saying, why would I affirm it? It doesn't happen. He's just not gone, oh, right, yeah, I see how it would be foolish to call the effect of everything going down gravity when not everything goes down. But based on his cognitive dissonance, he couldn't answer a question a 6-year-old managed.
Okay, well, there is an observation I can do. Is putting
sorry, my friend,
water.
stop. I'll try slower. You asked if it's reasonable to give something that does not happen a name. Now, would you concede, based on the time and effort I've just taken with you, that no, it is not reasonable to give names to things that don't happen, i.e. things always going down? That's what you asked. You've got your answer.
Yes.
I just need a response to that specifically without you waffling off in La La Land without acknowledging it in any way.
Okay, but the thing is, with density...
Stop.
Things are still going down.
Stop. Why is it so difficult for you to say it is unreasonable, as I have postulated, to give a name to something that doesn't happen? Why is it so difficult for you to say that? Yeah, but is not a reasonable... I've just taken 5 minutes out of my life to explain this to you.
Because you're not letting me
Stop
finish.
talking. Oh, is it disrespectful now? Waffling through me. I've taken a portion of my life to explain an answer to a question that you've asked. You said you knew here. Yeah? I've taken time to explain it and answer a question you posed. Is it reasonable to give a name to something that doesn't happen? Yeah, but... No, the 5 or 6 minutes of several people's lives that we've taken to explain this to you isn't going to be met with yeah, but. It's going to be, yes, I understand it's unreasonable to call that gravity. It doesn't happen. Why can't you say that?
Okay, but I want to ask about an observation that
Why?
cannot
We've already answered your question about whether or not it's not reasonable to give a name to something that doesn't happen, but you're just not willing to concede that it's not reasonable to name something when it doesn't happen. Why would I name it? It doesn't happen.
Okay.
There's the long protracted silence again. Is it something to do with your fundamental religious belief in a globe Earth?
Yeah, sorry, English is...
My bad, it was just me talking. Just you being rude. How dare you call me rude? You've just talked through me. Is it something to do with your fundamentalist religious globe belief that requires gravity, have everything be
I'm
held
not
to
a
the...
globe earther.
There's you talking through me again after calling me rude. I'll try a third time without you
No, what
interrupting
I told you-
because this triggered Fundy, yeah, needs to mute me. Needs to mute me telling him that he's got a fundamentalist religious belief that requires things being held to a sphere Earth in a vacuum.
I never talk about globe Earth. I never talk about...
Gravity's directly connected to globe Earth. Are you a muppet? Don't need to talk about it. It's directly connected.
So you're saying gravity...
I'm saying you're not conceding. I'm saying you've asked me about whether or not it's reasonable to give something a name when it doesn't happen. You haven't conceded that yet. Now you're asking me questions. Typical baller behaviour. Can't concede. Too proud. Unreasonable, perhaps. Just rude. Just impolite. Needs to talk through me. Needs to give me a yeah, but like some common wanker. It's just unreasonable behaviour, mate. I've taken a significant time to answer your question. Now I just want you, the fundamentalist religious zealot with a bald belief that requires gravity, therefore you don't have to talk about a globe when you're asking about gravity. It doesn't happen. I just need you to concede that. That's all I want. Not unreasonable when I've taken time to explain something you've asked.
Okay, but my answer was that yes, despite density, everything is going down, and you're telling me I'm wrong, and I'm trying to explain why I said that, and you're not letting me explain why I said that.
You asked if it was reasonable to call the effect of things going down. You even dropped a bottle, did you not, sir?
Yes, I did.
Right, so you made a example of the thing you were clarifying the question about. All things going down, your example, but a bottle dropping that I heard. Right. Yeah. Do you understand now, like my 6-year-old does? Not all things go down. Therefore, it's not reasonable to give it a... There's you interrupting me again. Are you going to call me rude? It's not reasonable to give that a name. It doesn't happen. Not all things do what your bottle did, sir. Therefore, I'd like you to concede now that no, it is unreasonable to name it. It doesn't happen. Total silence.
Yeah, sorry. As I said earlier, English isn't my first language, and I'm trying to think about how to say what I'm trying to say.
You say, yes, it's unreasonable to name something if it doesn't happen. Why is it a sigh rather than a concession? Have I not explained clearly enough that not all things do as your bottle did? Was that unclear?
Okay.
So it's unreasonable. You asked us this. You asked us this question.
Yeah.
You got your answer. But all I've got in return for the answer, and I've taken the time and trouble to give it you, is sighs and yeah buts and more questions. It's totally unreasonable, my friend.
No,
You're an unreasonable man who is now interrupting me for the 5th time. He also called me rude for interrupting him, even though that is now the 5th time you've done that. Yeah, unreasonable, given it's your question that we have answered for you. You don't like the answer, so therefore you're just going to sigh at me and say, yeah, but, and ask other questions. That's very unreasonable.
All right. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but the thing is, you're aggressive toward me. I'm trying to say something, and you're still not letting me...
That's correct. I'm not going to allow you to until you concede it's unreasonable to give something that doesn't happen a name, the name being gravity, because it doesn't happen. You dropped a bottle to example how it always happens to give it a name, gravity. I example things that don't do that.
Happen.
And for the 7th time, you interrupted because you, sir, are getting aggressive with me, talking through me, belligerence. That's what that is.
I'm
so
sorry,
now you're doing it again. What are you going to do after you've interrupted me for the 8th time? Tell me that I'm getting aggressive with you when you're continually interrupting me. I'm pointing out how unreasonable it is to ask somebody something and then not acknowledge it in any way. And yeah, but your way past it and tell me I'm being aggressive by not letting you ask a follow-up question? No. I'm being unreasonable. No, I'm not. I'm being reasonable. A reasonable man, after explaining an answer to a question he's asked, expects an acknowledgement of it. If you don't like the answer, that's tough. If you're just going to express your disapproval of the answer you received, eventually I'll get tired of you and just get rid of you, because you're an unreasonable man. Now, as a reasonable man explaining the answer to your question about whether or not it's reasonable to name all things going down as gravity when not all things go down, I'd like you to acknowledge that before we move on. I'm not going to be called aggressive for not allowing you to do that. You can call me assertive, not aggressive. I'm asserting the fact that I want an acknowledgement of that question you asked me, and we took the time to answer. And I'm not going to move on until I get it. That's how it is here.
Okay. And again, I'm sorry for having interrupted you. I didn't want to be rude. It's just I'm feeling like I was being attacked and that I couldn't say what I was trying to say.
Feelings. The subject matter is gravity and whether or not it needs a name, not your feelings.
Just concede, man.
Fair enough.
Just
I think-
concede.
So,
But right now I'm apologizing.
you're going to stutter your way
for
past it and
having
apologise
interrupted.
again for me being aggressive to you? No. You just need to say it's unreasonable to give something a name when it doesn't happen.
He may not understand if
I've explained it to him.
Okay, but the thing is, I can't say it doesn't happen when it does happen.
Okay.
excuse.
Sorry, so you want to circle jerk around the discussion that you haven't acknowledged? So you think it's reasonable to move on and then what, circle jerk back to this lack of affirmation of what I've already explained to you and assert that all things do as your bottle do and go down when balloons and clouds don't do that and even a 6-year-old recognises it? It's the lack of acknowledgement that will lead us back to this position again in 10 minutes that's not allowing me to let you move on.
Yeah, but...
And there's
yeah,
the
but
interruption
there is
again.
still-
Yeah, that's the 9th
Sorry.
interruption, my friend. Maybe you're being a bit too aggressive with me.
No, sorry.
You don't need to apologise. You
Okay,
just need to
before you go
acknowledge
on,
while I continue to
before you
get
go-
interrupted from G+, who feel that they need to take over charge of this situation. You don't. We're not going anywhere until he acknowledges the question he asked and the answer he got. He doesn't want to, because he's already
No,
affirmed,
I
and now he's
acknowledge
interrupting for the
that, sir.
10th time when I affirm that he's just told me it does happen like he dropped his bottle. That's what he's just told me.
Okay. Can I talk now? Because you're talking so much, I can't say anything without interrupting. And I'm not...
Sorry, I'm talking so much that you can't say anything without interrupting when there's a long pause and you want to tell me how sorry you are for being aggressive towards me with constant interruptions and projecting that aggression onto me by calling me aggressive when all I'm simply seeking is an affirmation of what I answered when you asked. You still haven't done it. It's been about 15 minutes. Once we don't get to it, which we probably inevitably won't ever get to, I'll start asking the audience why. When you've had an explanation, you've dropped a bottle and it's been shown to be incorrect, you've even offered your own answer as to why you're incorrect with density, the relative density to the medium you dropped the bottle in, because that same bottle would have floated up through water if it's empty. Sounded empty, got pretty good hearing. Meanwhile, you haven't acknowledged a single word of that and told me that it does happen that way after I've taken a considerable period of time with you saying, yeah, but... So you weren't acknowledging your question that was answered when you said, yeah, but, because you didn't agree. So you were lying when you went, yeah, but, and tried to answer a new question. The yeah, but was actually no. Correct? You're a liar. You may speak.
What about oil on water?
So you need to move on to a different subject rather than affirming that it's not reasonable to name something gravity when it simply doesn't happen. You'd rather continually interrupt it. You'd rather continually interrupt this devastating point that there's no point naming it if it doesn't happen. Therefore, gravity. No naming it, it doesn't happen, my friend. No matter how many times you drop a bottle, I'll just point at the clouds. Still waiting for you to affirm that it's not reasonable.
He's probably waiting till he feels it's
No,
safe
I
enough
agree
to
that if
restart.
I agree. fact that if something doesn't happen, it doesn't have to be named. But the thing is, it does happen that thing goes toward the Earth.
Sorry, there's a cloud outside my window and we exampled a helium balloon. Are you retarded? Do you need to return to some mental institution somewhere where clouds and balloons don't exist?
Yes, and my
Then sod off to the mental institute. You're not welcome here. If you can't recognise that not all things go down because you've got a fundamentalist religious zealot belief in a globe, then you're a moron and you don't deserve our time.
Sorry, I thought it was a debate that if I was respectful, I could.
Yeah, a debate would involve you conceding when you're wrong. So when you ask us, is it reasonable to name something gravity because all things go down like my bottle example, and we example a contrapositive example that doesn't do that, we'd expect you to acknowledge it. Not tell us how it's an unreasonable debate because you're unreasonable and can't concede. That's you projecting your unreasonable nature onto me. Fairly typical baller behaviour when it comes to a fundamentalist religious belief that you just blarted out like it was reasonable to name it gravity after dropping a bottle. You didn't expect a flat earther to point out how that's not true and are now unwilling to concede your incorrect notion that you need to name something that doesn't always happen. So no,
Fine,
I'm not unreasonable. This is a debate. I debated your question and proved it to be wrong. That's what happened. You just haven't conceded.
Fine, let's not name that gravity then. Let's name that
what?
Something else.
Name what? What specifically? Natural phenomena of what?
Of density. Then let's call that density then.
What density? Density is just a word. Do you want some qualifying words and descriptive words alongside that, perhaps?
The helium balloon is like...
Sorry, I already stopped you from making a new example. You said something's going to happen. We won't call it gravity, it's density. And I'm like, do you want some other words around that? Now moving on. What do you mean we'll just call it density? That means nothing. It's just one meaningless word with no context. So no, I'm not just going to call that. What is that we're going to be calling density? Specifically, what's that, according to you?
Density is the fact that some object goes higher than others and some goes lower than others when
no, it isn't.
You
That's wrong.
put them together.
No, it isn't. I've got two different densities of things in front of me, feathers and lead. Neither of them are doing anything. Neither of them are doing anything. I'm proving you wrong. This is a debate. I am debating your last statement. No, you are wrong. I can vary densities of things and they don't do anything. What's your point?
I'm sorry about that. I'm going to mute my phone.
Okay. You're wrong. Your last statement was incorrect. The word density alone means nothing. I don't know why we're discussing this. It means nothing to my world. We're here to debate the nature of world, defining things with one word of density. What does this do for my world precisely? How is this affecting the nature of my existence? Does anybody want to debate about the nature of Earth? Because it seems you're asking about naming things that don't happen and then arbitrarily giving one word to what happens, and you haven't told us what's happening yet.
Well, because you didn't let me. Every time I've tried, you've interrupted me, and I didn't say a thing. Now, when I said, yes, everything goes toward the Earth, you talked to me about cloud and helium balloon. And you're right, clouds and helium balloon goes up because they are less dense than air. But again, oil is less dense than water. And if you try to push oil inside water, it's going to go up. But it's going to stop going up. It's same for the helium balloon.
Okay.
Same for the clouds.
That's fascinating.
There's a reason clouds aren't higher than they are.
Who cares? Why are you telling us this? Who cares?
Well, because things keep going toward the Earth.
What, like clouds? Do you need to return to the mental asylum? Sorry, do clouds go towards the Earth? Are you stuck in some cognitive loop where you need to interrupt me pointing out your stupid insanity? It's nonsense, mate. You're saying all things go towards the Earth. I'll tell you why you need to do this. because you're in a paradigm where you're on a spinning ball in a vacuum and you need us to be pegged to the earth with some force called gravity. Of all things go down. There isn't such an effect in reality. Beyond your fundamentalist religious belief in gravity, I don't have any stake, claim, or requirement to describe it in any physical reality I have. So when you get on to describing density, in quotes, what does it mean? Doesn't mean anything to me. What it does mean is you've had to relinquish your force of down that holds you to a spinning water ball. Beyond that fundamentalist religious belief, this is meaningless to us. Doesn't mean anything about our nature of reality. Just some invented word for a thing that doesn't happen. But you wanted to give it a name. Drop bottle, got to give that a name. All right. What about the balloon and the clouds? Not everything's going down. Well, they are if I'm on a spinning water ball not flying off it. You're not.
I've never talked about spinning.
Everything except gas.
Well, if things go up and down, that means that not all things go down. It's really weird to first concede, yeah, things go up, and then say, but it still goes down. Like, why would you say that?
Look,
it doesn't. You just said it didn't. And then you said, no, but it does go down.
I thought that by joining this server, I could learn things about flat earths and how you explain things, okay? Because I think that we shouldn't believe everything we're said, but again, if I can't ask a question, I'm just gonna leave.
Nobody's holding you here. You can do whatever you like. If you want to bugger off, you can. If you want to ask us a question, you can. You did ask us a question about whether or not it's reasonable to name all things going down gravity. You did. You asked. We answered. You didn't like the answer and wouldn't concede it. But what's that? That's you not getting to ask questions. Are you nuts? You did. Bloody victim. Total victim mentality. You don't like the answer, so suddenly you didn't get to ask any questions here.
I've just joined, Nathan, so I've just been sat here listening, and all I've heard is somebody dodge, been given a perfectly reasonable thing to respond to, having admitted that he's here to learn, get the point, and not deal with the point, and just move to another point instead of having to admit that his preconception that he had when he came here has just been challenged and debunked. Very bad form to then try and turn around that and place it as if we're being rude to him in some way, which means he has to leave. Yeah. A little bit of humility goes a long way, son.
After 10 interruptions. 10 interruptions. Just projection, my friend. You are projecting your poor behaviour onto me. That's what this is, projection. You're getting very aggressive, Nathan. Am I? What, while I get interrupted 10 times? Total silence.
Well,
what's your question?
Doublespeak does get everybody's blood boiling.
You wanted to know about how flat Earth worked or something? Feel free.
Is it okay if I talk?
He's run away.
No, it's too late now.
Well, he said he wasn't a baller anyway, which I do not believe.
That's not the point. The question it's not the point. The question was at the table. Is it reasonable to give a name to something that's not happening? That was a very good question. And he skirted around. Once he finally understood it after the skirting around, he says, okay. And then went to oil and water mixed up and says the oil is less dense and it comes to the top of the water. Okay, haven't you learned anything? Is the oil at the top of the water less dense than air? Or more dense than air? Why do you think it stayed at the top of the water?
Indeed.
Yeah, they don't want to understand that. They're excluding gases. That's what they do all the time. Everything goes down except gases.
Stop. Why are we explaining this? How does this affect me? How does this affect my world in any way, shape, or form? Now, just by pure coincidence, and sorry, Dal, you got the short end of the stick in this regard because you just happen to be the most recent example. Dal has just had the exact same sentiment directed to him. Identical, in fact. How does this affect my life? beyond a claim that we're on a spinning ball flying through a vacuum, or beyond a claim that we're flying up on a pizza pie, how does this affect me? If I don't hold a presupposition that we're spinning or flying up, does this affect my world? What is it that I'm experiencing that needs explaining all of a sudden? Nothing is the answer. There is no effect. Not all things go down. So we don't need to explain it with quote-unquote gravity. We don't need to explain it with anything. Why are we explaining it? Well, because we're so used to being in false dichotomy and having to come up with an explanation. The same applies to the horizon. When somebody says, well, how do you explain the horizon? So, did I make a claim about it? Well, I've got to claim it's Earth curve, so when you debunk it, you better offer me... No. I can just debunk it as being Earth curve, and then I don't have to tell you anything about it. But you know, Nathan, all about diffraction limits. So? That mean I have to disseminate that information to anybody? No. All it does is leave me open to having to defend that. It might be true, but once I debunk Earth curve, I don't have a claim about the horizon. I couldn't give a crap. I don't care what causes it. Nothing about my worldview rests on the horizon at all. Likewise, the notion of the name of gravity for an effect that doesn't happen, once debunked, has zero bearing on my reality. There's nothing else to explain. It's like, well, how do you explain it then? Explain what? Like the other guy. It's like, well, we've got to call it something. Let's just not call it gravity. What's it? Nothing's happening. So you're going to call it rather than gravity when it is nothing happening, because not all things go towards the ground. It's medium specific. Some things go up.
Unlike other subjects, this subject is the grandest of all subjects. That this back and forth that just happened is a small scale of what we've been experiencing for years on the show, Nathan. And that is when someone who's been indoctrinated from birth with these phrases and models suddenly have a reasonable question like the one you asked, it's more than that question. They could easily, this is my opinion, because I've had this happen to me live with people, not on a show, obviously, because it happens to you on the show all the time. Instead of just saying, yeah, that's right, that makes total sense, I concede to that argument. But I do have another question. Now, you say, fine, let's move on to your other question then. They can't do that because they're suffering from some kind of psychological backwash that if they concede, they lose. And if they lose, this whole indoctrination, this cognitive dissonance is some kind of psychological block where they can't communicate anymore. Rather than being earnest about finding the truth about something by talking, debating, and conceding when concession is needed, they resist at every point because they can't handle it. I feel bad for them because it's impossible for them to move along.
It's hard to hold some empathy for them when they're projecting their digressions directly onto me. I'll interrupt you, then tell you you're being aggressive. It's just like, no. You're not giving me an opportunity to talk. No, I'm not giving you an opportunity to move on after you haven't conceded. But that's suddenly immediately put into the realms of Nathan's being unreasonable. Okay, well, that's going to obviously push me to lose my temper when reason is what brought us to this point. I'm just not willing to concede somebody going, yeah, but what about this other blah, 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 blah. No, the yeah, but that he gave us was a lie. Because it wasn't yeah, but here's a new example. It's I'm not conceding, I do not agree, I still think all things move down, and I'm going to move on so you don't keep labouring that point. That's what he was actually saying when he said, yeah, but what about the oil in the water? He's not conceding. But I'm not going to let him. We have won. Let's just do it with a bit more of a smile in case people think I'm aggressive. We've won. That was what happened when you win. They don't want to lose. They want to continue to believe all things go down. So, yeah, but what about this? Is what we get. No, sod that. That ended in about 2019. Nope. You either concede, oh, what's that? It will relinquish your entire worldview. Oh, that's such a shame. You're going to concede anyway. That's right, your worldview's rubbish. We've won. It's not a globe. It's flat. We can prove it in every conceivable way. You still hold the globe belief and want me to be wrong anyway? That's not going to be the case, and you're going to damn well concede it. Now you've wasted some of our time with your, well, we're going to name it something because, look, I've dropped the bottle. Oh, yeah? What about when I show that's not the case? It wipes the smile straight off their face and suddenly it's aggressive Nathan with his aggressive mute button while I'm getting talked through. Effective muting. What did we used to call it? Fundy muting. Yeah? That's what we actually got there. A nice little demonstration with me generally keeping my cool. Duncan McLeod, shout out to you for the super chat. Held it on screen for a while. 1 second, guys, sorry. What should we name the migration of flying unicorns when it doesn't happen? I think we should call that gravity. Thanks for the super chat. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You got to start changing it to more. We got to change it to more things go down.
Do they?
That's what they seem to think. Everything goes down except gases. That's what I'm told constantly.
Have a quick round robin on the panel. Everybody's literally here now, be it in Discord or be it in G+. I'm going to take a general consensus view. I want you to all, actually, let's involve the audience. Everybody who's live. How many people? We've got 110 people watching right now. I want every single one of you in the audience to look around your general vicinity and tell me how much stuff is going in a downward vector. So from the audience, please let me know in the chat. I'll keep an eye on it. But we're going to go through Discord and hopefully G+ will pipe in along the way. But from Discord, who in their general vicinity, as they look around them as we speak now, have things going down?
Nothing for me.
Nothing from Duncan?
Just
Yeah, I didn't see. Nothing's falling down for me. I'm looking around. Nothing's falling down.
But would you all agree on Discord and G+, watching Matrix Media says a lot of stuff? Okay, tell me what it is. From the chat. Peanut Gallery not proving much use. Obviously, I really appreciate your viewership.
Think about the conversation.
I was hoping someone would say it was raining, but we're not going to get there. It's too nice a day everywhere. Go ahead, Adam.
I was just going to address Neil. You keep saying that they keep referring or ignoring gases, but that gentleman that was just on just gave a lovely example of oil going up and taken out of disequilibrium, placed into a medium of water. It will equilibrate and go up and settle on the top of the medium of which it is less dense. It won't go any further because it's a lot more dense than the air, which is the next boundary layer, but it sits above that one. It's a great example of things that aren't gases going up.
It's always sod's law. In the pre-show, I was telling 10th, I was like, I'm absolutely exhausted. I've been stress testing this computer and making sure it works really slick. And then, what do you know? I'm like, let's just have a housekeeping session. And somebody comes on who wants to just name things that don't happen. Unicorn migration? Why wouldn't we name it?
I understand what you're saying. You have to take things out of equilibrium first. You can't just say things are going down. I got it.
No, my point was it's worth the effort. It's worth weekend after weekend sat in front of this computer so that the live audience got to hear that discussion. Whereas, obviously, if I hadn't spent all of last night making sure this computer was stable today, we wouldn't have had that discussion live for a live audience.
No, that was my point. That was wonderful to see, because this is the cognitive dissonance and the blank stares and how conversations between friends eventually just stall and stop because they can't concede past the simple question. You're asking them if the things that they were raised with, all the indoctrination, is it happening? Can you show it to me? Is it reasonable to give a name to something that is not happening? It stumps them. It shouldn't, but it's the clarion call that tells you the brainwashing in a model they live in that doesn't exist in reality. So when you ask them that question, their gears in their mind are moving. Like, if I say this, then this happens. If I say that, then this happens. Instead of just answering the question.
But I still want to labour the point that I was labouring in the pre-show in regards to Dell, as much as, like I say, sorry you got the short end of the stick, Dell, but I want to know the consequence of something that doesn't happen, that it isn't occurring in my reality. In other words, beyond the induced effect that Dell might be questioning us about, my understanding is he's made a couple of minutes of very cordial response video. Thank you for keeping it cordial, by the way, Dell. I haven't actually watched it, but I got the general gist. Right? He's asking us, why does this effect happen that he induced? Well, like with the other guy, once that position has been refuted, that's done with a helium balloon, then what, you're going to ask me why it happens? I don't care. It's inconsequential to me, this effect that you've induced. Unless you can show me where it's effective to my experience of life, I don't care. Yeah, literally, I couldn't care less. Because I don't have a stake in making a claim about it. Now, if you're going to make a claim that the world's moving up, then you've got a stake in making this claim. And you're going to want to convince people that your presupposition of the Earth moving up is a justifiable reason based on the induced effect that you show. But for me, I don't know. I didn't make a claim about this, and I'm not throwing bottles with stuff in them around and asking why it happens. You are, because you're asserting that the world moves up. I'm not, so I don't need to make any claims or explain why it happens. If you can find an instance where I'm making a claim about why bottles thrown out of cars with stuff in them do stuff, then maybe I'll offer an explanation for it. But I wouldn't do that because it has absolutely no bearing whatsoever on my world. Unless, of course, I assume it's spinning or moving up or some other stupid nonsense. Then it might have a bearing on that presupposition of what the world's doing, as opposed to my reality. In that respect, it has no bearing on it, so I'm not going to be explaining it. I've got no need to. Likewise, when the guy was like, well, how do you explain my presupposition of all things going down? Because I'm not stuck to a world, I didn't claim that. Like, you're asking about gravity. It's intrinsic, my friend. Anyway, I don't have a claim, I don't care. Same with the horizon, don't care. Why does it do that? I don't care. Who cares? Just don't get caught in forced dichotomy. Once you annihilate someone's positive assertion as false, don't fall on your need to explain whatever it is that you've just debunked. You don't need to. Now, on your own time with friends, sometimes it's nice to go on that little journey of discovery with one another in a nice, controlled and friendly environment where you're all looking for the same thing, not to affirm a bias, but to investigate the nature of reality. Now, typically, in terms of phenomena, we investigate that in an empirical manner through the method of science. Now, in terms of this effect, which we have no reason to explain, we've got no horse in this race, we're not asserting some stupid vector for Earth, so we've got no horse in this race. Meanwhile, we have actually got the only scientific empiricism in this regard. We don't even need it. I'm not going to be offering it up in false dichotomy for you to argue against, because I don't need to explain why some things go up, some things go down, some things remain neutral. And as far as my panel and every one of my live audience, because I didn't see any different going by other than a minor hint maybe from Matrix Media, that anything's doing other than remaining completely neutral.
It gets frustrating when they won't answer, though. That's not me, it's my brother.
Should we move on with a bit of housekeeping? We might trigger another fundy. We got to viable hypothesis from fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics, and then we had a fundamentalist religious zealot who wouldn't relinquish his belief that all things go in a downward bias, like his bottle that he dropped to example it. But there we go. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Nope, that's technically impossible.
No, Nathan. You'll need two straight lines as a vertex.
Angles are made with straight lines, Nathan. Baseline has to be straight. Yeah, thank you. Any evidence you can have gas pressure, that yummy, yummy gas pressure that we're all breathing in and out of our lungs as we speak, without the necessary antecedent of a container for the gas to press upon.
Or without a closed
Pressure
system.
gradients.
What about them?
You still require a closed system in order to achieve a gas pressure gradient.
I know. That's all I see every time I ask that question. That's all I get back.
An idiot.
But the question they're asking back still contains within it the assertion that you've made. So when they say, what about a gas pressure gradient? It's like, yeah, that's still gas pressure. I'm saying, how can you have the gas pressure without a container? Well, we've got a gas pressure gradient. Yeah. The gas pressure needs containment, though. So this isn't a rebuttal. It's I don't know if you call it a red herring.
Well, there's 2 points at play here, isn't there? The first being what's necessary for gas pressure to be achieved, just in of itself, and that would be gas and containment. And the second part is what's required to get a gradient. Well, the first thing to have is gas pressure. Now, the containment is the cause of that. Once we've got gas pressure caused by containment, we can then introduce a secondary cause for the gradation. The containment is not the cause of the gradation, just the pressure is the result of the containment. And we then need to look at different things as to why we could have gradation. In a little demonstration Zachary Zabala did, we just demonstrated in a very simple way how you can achieve gas pressure gradients just by heating and cooling 2 different ends of the containment. That would generate a differential in gas pressure. But just to be able to do that, we had to ensure we had a closed system where we had containment of the gas we were trying to affect its pressure with.
I explained some years ago. I did a whole presentation. It was an hour and 37-minute presentation. You did a special on it, Nathan. About the sun creates our gas pressure gradient.
Hold on, someone else. Is that background noise from you, Brian, or is someone else off mute?
It's background noise from me.
Okay,
I can't do anything about it, Nathan. So I'll shut up if you want.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just, if it was someone interrupting you, I just wanted to sort it out. If it's just your background noise, that's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah, but yeah, and I know more about about that topic now than I did back then. But I've had baller after baller look at that presentation, and none of them can address it. So why would they ever ask again that question? Because they can't touch my presentation because I used official data.
Well, this is my point. This is my whole point, Brian. What you and Adam just said is fantastic, right? But because of the indoctrination since birth, this is where they hit a wall. So a reasonable, total, all-encompassing definition of the situation, explanation of the situation, antecedents requirement, all makes sense. They hear it, and then it hits this thing in their head. And it just can't be, and this is what we hear. Yeah, but we went to the moon. I just told you, if the spaceship can leave Earth and go to the moon, all the gas we breathe would also have left, and we would never have gas pressure in the first instance. What are you not getting at this point? Well, we went to the moon. That settles it for me. I don't need to discuss this anymore. This is what I'm hearing out there. There's damage to this lie in people's minds where they can't reason with logic anymore.
They're holding on to very specific story parameters, and they can't let go of the story because it hurts them too much, and they've invested too much in it being like that. So then they are left in the future with an incompatibility between the story as they remember it and what actually turns out to be possible. And most people, especially when you get older, you choose the story you know.
If in an example, someone grew up with a loving father and really had good memories of their father, later finds out the father was charge of a death camp, and there's pictures and videos, and it's definitely his father. He said, yeah, but that's not the father I grew up with. I know, but you want to concede that this is still your father and he did this? No, that's not the father I grew up with. No, I know that. But do you want to concede that this is still... That's not the father I grew up with.
That's a really painful example, but yeah.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I'm hearing it with people who are my friends when I bring up... See, I don't go to prove flat Earth. I say, look, either we're geocentric or heliocentric. Which one are you? Great. If I could debunk all the claims of the globe, now what do you have? Well, you can't. I said, all right, fine. Let me try. I'm going to debunk the globe claims. Yeah, but you're a flat earther. I go, don't worry about what we have left to figure out what we're on. I'm not making any claims. I'm going to destroy what the current teachings are to where we don't have to even choose any of that. So if I can destroy the lie that we're a globe spinning through space, if I can do that, then we have to be something other than that. Would you agree with that? I can't even get them to agree to that as rules.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hit the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. Massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!